We know so many of you have questions about what's happening downtown every night. Trust me, we do too. You know that. We've got a lot of people working to try and provide some clarity and context. So if you have a question, let us know. Use that hashtag HeyDan on Twitter, email the story at kgw.com, or find me on Facebook at Dan Haggerty KGW. Now, I want to take a minute and remember the original intent of these demonstrations, right? To rally for racial justice, something black people in Oregon have been fighting for a very long time. Robert sent me this on Twitter last night. He said, "Hey Dan, in the light of the Black Lives Matter protests, did you know that the racist language in the Oregon Constitution wasn't removed until 2002? Evidently, 30% of the population voted to retain it. Black people only got this victory 18 years ago. Is there anything in the KGW vault about this?" Well, we have talked about this before on this story, but it is worth repeating since most of you don't usually watch us every single day like you should. Before it became a state, the government of the Oregon Territory passed what were called black exclusion laws. Black people essentially were not allowed to settle in this territory or own any property. Those laws became part of the Constitution when Oregon first became a state in 1859. Voters eventually did repeal those laws in 1926, but like Robert said, the actual language was not removed from the state constitution until 2002, and 30% of voters at the time wanted to keep that racist language in. In the early 1900s, the Ku Klux Klan was booming in Oregon. Oregon actually had the largest KKK membership per capita in the entire country, and they helped get racist politicians elected to office, including Governor Walter M. Pierce in 1922. And like a lot of cities across the country, Portland was no stranger to redlining. Banks denied mortgages to people of color in certain areas, created segregated neighborhoods. The map you see here of Portland shows how it was divided up in 1940. The red areas are labeled hazardous because of, quote, undesirable populations. The federal government banned the practice in the 1970s after the civil rights movement, but the effects of it are still doing resounding harm to this day.